This week on Country Music Dads, we welcome Nathan Evans Fox. He is a Nashville-based country music artist and dad with a fascinating new album on the way. He explores all those country themes, land, hard work, and faith from the left in a space traditionally considered pretty conservative. We are the only parenting podcast with a twang, so whether you're a dad, a country music fan, or a little of both, we're here to help. We're the red dirt road of country music meets the long white line of modern fatherhood. That's where we live, and we'll see you there.
So I want to start with a story. It's one that most people listening to this episode can relate to from their own experience. The day my first child was born, and my second child for that matter, I held him in my arms and talked to him. I told him the truth about the world, how I would be there for him as long as I could, how I'd push him to be the best he could and protect him from anything that would stop him, hurt him, or simply make him feel sad. All of us fail to live up to these promises, but we try every day to do our best. We do so because every day is a new beginning. Earlier this year, I heard a song that simply took my breath away. I didn't even know how to explain it. It put this conversation, that conversation I had with my child, to song, and the realization that we can't live up to these promises, but we'll never stop trying to do so. Lots of Beginning does an incredible job of blending modern Southern rock, classic hillbilly music, Carolina country sounds, and aggressive storytelling that allow listeners into Nathan Evans Fox's conversations with his child on that very first day. And so the North Carolina-born, Nashville-based indie country artist writes songs that explore the connections and broken places between family, faith, labor, and inheritance. And his LP, Heirloom, which is out on May 29th via Free Dirt Records, will push a lot of country music fans to think a lot, but will do so from a very safe sonic place for them. And so we're really glad that he has joined us today. I'm going to give a little bit of background on Mr. Fox here so that we can get into this. Fox was a fourth generation to be raised at the end of a dead-end road in Glen Alpine, North Carolina. He grew up in a community shaped by mill closures, factory layoffs, and the slow erosion of what he would call a working-class stability. He worked blue-collar jobs, served in AmeriCorps, attended seminary in New York City at an interfaith and socially progressive institution, and trained to be a hospital chaplain, something we will definitely get into as we go a little bit further. We're really lucky to have him here today and have him on our show, and we're really excited to kick off the first official kind of content version of Season 3 with Nathan. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to try to be about as coherent as I can, but it's been a long couple days in the Dad Factory.
I hear that. Speaking of the Dad Factory, I'd love to get into lots of beginnings.
Welcome to the world, dear. There's an awful lot to show you. There's so much that I hold dear. Well, that now includes you.
It's the first track on your album that's coming out, and it's really the right place for this kind of song. But it really is a wildly personal song that you put together, and it's something you shared with your child when she came into the world. And I'd love to hear how you decided to put such a personal memory to this type of an audience.
I think to really explain how I got there with how personal that song is, I have to explain the closing track of the record, because I wrote that first song. Like, sometimes I'm not one of these like artistic types where I'm like, oh, I've got to really just like catch the muse. Normally I'm very like, let's just bang out the next verse, the next bridge, like chop, chop. But I was writing the closing track of the record and just felt this thing to just keep writing.
Week my daddy died. I saw him hiding in her smile in her soul.
The closing track is about, so I lost my dad and became a dad in the same year. I was in this kind of hall of mirrors about what it means to be a dad, what it means to like think about what I want to pass on to my child, what I want to keep from the ways that my father parented me, what I want to like get rid of, what I'm mad about, what I'm soft about, all of those things. And so I was writing the closing track, talking about what it is. Like, the title of the record is Heirloom, and it's not my kid that's the heirloom. It's me, because I have now become like the seed from last season, and also the seed that like promises next season as well. Like, I'm the one in the middle. And so thinking about what it is I want to seed bank for my kid and what it is I don't want to, And out of that came this like long, extended, heartfelt message about all the things that I want for my kid, all the things that I want to remember in her. Like, I loved my grandma. So my mama, she just lived up the field from me. She was the best person I've ever met in my life. My best friend was a 98-year-old woman. I'm like, my kid is the coolest way I get to meet her again. Like, there's so much that I want for her. And I want her to have my grandma's like, I ain't taking shit from men. Like, there's so much I want my kids to have. And so I got to that, had the long process of just like writing this song about what it means to exorcise the demons from your family. And so what I got to was that like sassy little bit that I think you hear some of the grief in there, but you also hear some of the hope and the joy as well.
You gotta talk how you talk, that's how my grandma did.
Clearly, family, you just were saying, is a huge part of your storytelling. How do you balance the importance of the storytelling and remembering the traditions and where you would like it to go, healing those generational issues, but also ensuring that the traditions continue?
Yeah. I mean, we've already said that I come at it from the left, so let's just get into it. The reason that my family ended up on our land, without spilling too much family lore, is a series of events that were really like put into place by our relationship to work and to war and our need to go somewhere that was safe. That was a bit of a fugitive space. And so my connection to family and to family land always started with, how is our family system diffusing the violence and the trauma that Uncle Sam has left with us? Like, he's the real patriarch in the family. And so for me to understand anything on a personal level, on an intergenerational level, on just a social level, has required also an understanding of what I now would consider politics in a way that's not abstract at all, but is about like, you spend enough time working bad jobs and you spend enough time going to war, there's going to be a lot of violence and there's going to be a lot of scarcity and there's going to be a lot of meanness. And those are all things that came to us through empire, but we're expected to deal with it on our end. So that's part of it. That family land is like, it's funny because there's plenty of people I never met in my family. They died or they moved off before I could meet them. But I knew them in a way. Like, they were, as long as we had that land, which we don't anymore, but as long as we had that land, we had a kind of like universe. We had like a universe of like ghosts. That land was this like sacrament, or like this like manifestation of all of that history. Like, I could walk down through the woods and see where the trailer parks used to be because they had grown into the fence or the trash had been pushed off in the woods. I could walk up to my mama's and see where there used to be pasture land and stuff for different critters. And all of that ephemera told a story. And so I grew up in this very like haunted place that also, when I inherited it, my family and my mama were kind of like rewilding it. They were trying to give it a little bit of sense of like freedom and greenery and restoration. So I inherited that kind of process.
And so you live there now?
Sorry, no,
also?
yeah.
What's your kid? You raise your family now?
Get me talking about it, I start going off all kinds of rabbit trails. No, so I grew up there. When I graduated college, the recession was really bad in my hometown because my hometown was all mills. So like North Carolina was like tobacco and mills. And so what went away in the 90s and the aughts? Tobacco and mills. And so there was really not like any jobs for me to go home. And I also kind of needed to go see other things in the world. So no, I left home. In 2020, my mama died, and that was she was like the last person on that family land beside my parents. And it was just a lot of upkeep. It was going to be expensive to keep up her house and all her land and all that. And so my parents made the decision to sell the land, in part also because my dad needed better health care. My dad's been medically complex my whole life. And we were kind of entering the last couple years of his life, and kind of low key knew it. And he was getting kind of not great rural healthcare. So they kind of made the tough decision to get rid of all of it, which was honestly like a massive loss. Like, it felt like a meta grief. Like, all the griefs I had for my grandmother and for other people in my family, they all of the roots came up when we had to sell that land. So yeah, I don't live there anymore. I did grow up there. I mean, I guess some of the lore that's also important is like, it's the end of a dead end road. There's all this kind of family tradition. I grew up really weird. So like, grew up really fundamentalist Christian in like weird ways, in ways that people are like, oh, it's this. I'm like, no, it's not that. Oh, it's this, it's not that. The closest thing I could say is like think about the weirdest new age stuff you've done, but you just swap out the Holy Ghost for like whatever stuff. So super fluid, wasn't like church based. Like it gave me an imagination for like kind of anarchism in a way, because we had a lot of like spontaneously occurring communities based around our ability to literally speak gibberish and have gold dust appear on ourselves. But also, you know, at the same time, those places were incredibly like harmful and abusive. So I have a very complicated relationship to all that. But I can't like tell the story of that land also without the kind of like weird religious stuff that kicked off there, in part as a way of arresting a lot of the cycles that it was the best answer that my mom and my dad had for a long time for a lot of the stuff that they had inherited just by living there and being around all of it.
Does that still feel like home to you, or do you feel at home where you're at?
Yeah, no, I don't feel it. I live in a city. I hate this shit. No, this doesn't feel like home. I mean, I like where I live. I have a garden, and I am slowly killing back all of our lawn to plant more okra. And you know, I've got my kids here now. I've got 2 kids. I got a lot of kids in my book. And so
How old are they?
I have a 4-month-old and an almost 3-year-old. So yeah,
Yeah,
we're in the thick of it.
you're in it. You're in
Yeah.
it.
So it feels like home in the sense that like it's good enough and I'm like grateful for my life and I wouldn't like complain about it. But does this place feel like does Nashville feel like where my roots are laid? No. Do I think I'll ever recover? The toddler is fully crashing upstairs. Do I think I'll ever recover like a sense of roots that are as deep as what I grew up with? No. But also, I mean, that came with so much mess too that I don't know. You know, at some point, are you trauma bonded or are you, you know? So I'm trying to remember that like it's okay to grieve things because life is full of moving on, while also understanding that like economic privation is a force that removes a lot of people from their roots and their communities. So that's a complicated answer, but I feel really complicated about it.
You mentioned your religious upbringing. You've spent time as a
Yeah.
chaplain, a hospital chaplain. I imagine that comes with seeing a lot of the range of human emotions. Did that period of your life and that job contribute to your songwriting, your worldview?
The thing that was interesting about hospital chaplaincy is I never really fit. I love the work because I love people. I was a non-religious hospital chaplain in the Bible Belt, which is quite a way to swim upstream. But I also understand that like religious languages are a thing that people use to cope with things that are really hard to cope with, like terminal illness, with disability, with like life-changing disability, with unexpected trauma. For the longest time, I couldn't really reconcile the two because I would go, like I spent a lot of time like going on the road and then coming back and picking up shifts at the hospital. And like one is like, here, you hold the mic and control the room and make everything about you. And then the other is just like, let me radically listen to you. And it was real whiplash. And I never could really like reconcile in myself how I could do both of those things. I've come to a sense now where making music has to be medicine. Like I'm pretty blue collar about what it means to make music. I don't like all this woo woo art bullshit. I don't care about the muse. I don't care, like miss me with all that. I'm pretty practical about it. It's cool to make songs. We're not saving the world. Making a song is not a transcendental experience, but it's a really cool thing to do and it is helpful for people. I've come to this understanding now where like I've been able to integrate those two like things that I knew I just had to keep feeding and one day they would make sense, but they weren't for years. At some point I just started being like, my music has to be a little more explicitly message driven because the world has fallen apart and because I have sat with so many people in times of loss and of trauma and of tremendous violence. And I've seen so much social murder. Once again, being a leftist about this, I've seen so much social murder. I've seen so much debt. I've seen so much death. I've seen so much surveillance. That's the other thing we don't talk about a lot when people are in hospitals. I've seen so much of this that I'd be a psychopath for it to not start to put roots down in me and to change the way that I see the world. And also I would be a psychopath to spend the rest of my life deferring my desire to make music. So I've just decided like I make medicine. Like I try to give people a sense of hope and beauty and poetry and feeling that helps them sort through the mess of living here. And it's been cool to like get into that because that sounds a little too like high and mighty for my taste, but I think that's how it's going. I've had a bunch of people recently on this most recent run say they feel like they're at church. And for the first time in my life, I don't feel too weird about that. because I'm telling people to like go own your anger at a system that like doesn't care about if kids die. Go go feel free to grieve the things that you need to grieve, and do it in your twang and in your vernacular. Like you don't have to abandon yourself to be a human or to have a conscience or be a neighbor. So that's my long answer. Yes, it affects me in the ways that like I just. Another thing is the other thing I'm just gonna say. I'm really soapboxing here, but the other thing I'm just gonna say is that when you have seen like really bad stuff, like every day, professional, like as much as time as you spend at your job, it's all bad stuff. You don't take yourself too seriously on like, am I selling enough drink tickets at the bar as an artist? like it just keeps things in perspective for me where I'm like, I have artist problems and like I want artists to get paid. Like I work with the union, all this. And also there's some perspective here where like people don't pick up on my song about Jello shots. It's going to be okay.
Well, perspective, I think, is kind of key to one of your first big hits. You went viral with the Hillbilly Hymn, right?
When the Lord comes back, ain't gonna be no cops. You can cook your own, you can smoke your crops. All the boys gonna wear the pretty thing.
This is a crazy cool song. It is shockingly different from what you may expect to go viral. It is you and two other people with just a little beat behind you singing about how the laws all are going to go away when, Jesus comes back. Not my particular brand of religion, but I think that's a pretty interesting perspective. And as a student of religion, there's so much true reading of both the New Testament, old kind of Torah instruments. There's a lot in this that is wildly accurate to the readings of those books. And people may be like, whoa, I don't agree with that. And it also drives deeply into liberation theology, this concept of empowering those who have been brought up in the church or in other religious institutions to utilize religion for their own liberation from systems that are keeping them down, be it the church or anything else, which is an interesting perspective all on its own and has tons of scholarship. And it's a great dive if people want to get into it. Do you see Hillbilly Hymn as a song within the canon of liberation theology, or am I trying to put way too much credit on a song about cigarettes and okra?
So I should say the seminary I went to was home to a lot of the patriarchs, matriarchs, matriarchs of multiple schools of liberation theology. So it's something that I'm like very steeped in. And frankly, like, I just want to say, like, once again, I'm not religious, but I do want to say, like, if you want just a way of understanding like biblical text, it just has more explanatory power, like more descriptive power, more interpretive power to realize that like it's not just about like things in the clouds, but like people's actual lives. Like, just want to put that out there. This was not like all like abstract for a lot of people who are writing these things. So like I'm very steeped in that tradition. I'm very grateful for the places where it like dropped me off after a season of trying to sort through the very bad religion that I inherited when I should have just gone to like a lot of therapy, but instead I got student debt to go to seminary and, whatever. But the funny thing is to me that like, I think for some people I've become their favorite worship leader, and it's happened after I just like completely apostatized.
I'm not an expert in Jesus, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of how that went too.
I know.
Not to put that on you, but
but yeah, I mean, Paul was the first Christian. Honestly, the way that I took that song on was like in the Bible Belt, there has always been a kind of mandate to square yourself to the cultural dominance of Christianity. So there's folks that subvert that. There's folks that like hide like a lot of their practices within it, whatever. But it's a language that you kind of have to learn to speak, not because it's like better than anyone else, but because it's the dominant cultural language. Like it's the one that's been enforced for hundreds of years. And so, like when I cut on like Doc Watson and I hear him singing about like, talk about following Jesus, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to go to church. I'm just like, oh, that's just a part of the folk tradition. And so when I wrote that song, I'm like, yeah, this is just like a poetic language that I've had to inherit and become fluid in the South. And so it's been like, I'm happy for folks who find it to be a really meaningful expression of their religion. And it's just a song. It's just a song about like, when the Lord comes back is a way of talking about Jubilee, about like what it means to get it right. It's just like a poetic horizon for envisioning what it means to be at our best.
I'm a Reformed Jew, right? So I grew up in this concept of the idea of messianic completion was exactly what you were just saying there. It's like we're going to fix the world and make it better. We aren't required to finish the work, but we are required to engage with it. And that is a big part of my tradition growing up. And this idea that there's no work to be done is something that I've always had trouble with, you know, some traditions. And that goes across all different religions. If you just put faith in God, you're going to be fine. That doesn't really work for me. Because I think that we have free will for a reason. You're utilizing a box of constraint to force people to think outside of its confines, right? You're using this language that they understand to push people beyond that. And I think that's, honestly, to me, from reading it poetically, critically, that particular song, also many of the songs on the album, but that particular song, I think is probably the most explicitly religious expression of a very progressive mindset. It's very interesting to me that you're able to utilize this language and this format to push people to think in a different way while also not completely dismissing what they believe.
Yeah, I think one of the great disservices that Christianity has done to the concept of Jubilee is that it gave it to Gentiles. And so there's this distance that folks read from where they don't think of it as like, it's this kind of like, we can read all these things in abstraction because they're all symbols. They're not part of someone's actual like lived community and practice and all this. Jubilee's a real, like, it never happened historically, but like it was going to look like everyday life for Jewish people. It wasn't going to be some big, strange end times remaking annihilation of the world. It was going to be like, you let the land rewild, you forgive the debts. It's going to look like you have a bill with someone who's your neighbor and you say, it's all good. There's nothing to mystify it. And so for me, like when I think about Jubilee, and this is also when I think about full communism, it's just going to look like us. It's going to look vernacular. It's going to look infleshed in our flesh. It's going to look like making sure that your grass is a little tall for critters. It's going to look like making sure that everyone gets to have food, even if it's just a mess of beans. And yes, Oliver Anthony, it's going to mean a little bit of junk food too. It's going to mean some fudge rounds and honey buns. That's what it's going to look like. It's going to look like life as we know it. We don't have to envision the end of the world to imagine the fulfillment of the world. We've got everything that we need. We just got to get it right, get the relationships of it all right.
And I think that's very challenging for some people. I live a very comfortable life. I can't deny that. And I am not a radical leftist in any way, shape, or form. But I think that is a goal we should have as society to make life a little bit better for everybody, right? Make it a little easier, make it a little bit more comfortable. It's an interesting dilemma because we can agree and disagree on how we get there. And we should probably talk a little bit more like this in forums where we don't have the same approach to it, but perhaps we can learn from each other. I saw an interesting bit recently, and I don't remember exactly who was saying it. It may have been I think it was on the American Aquarium social media feed, is if we just talk to each other and we talk about NASCAR and we talk about how we enjoy okra, is it fried or is it in a stew, you know, those Southern things, or like take it from my traditions, you know, like I hate brisket, and saying that as a Jew is a very difficult thing to say. Brisket is a big deal in our community. I don't like it. I don't like Jewish brisket. I like Texas brisket. That's delicious. I like smoked brisket. If you're going to cook it for long enough that it's going to turn into shoe leather and you're going to put some sweet stuff on top of it, no one really wants to eat that. I'm going to live in that. I'm going to die on that hill. I know that my Jewish friends are coming after me for that, but I'm okay. I'm okay with that. That's something I believe. But we can talk about it. I'm sure your mother's brisket's delicious. It's not good, I promise. These are the things that we should be talking about because there's so much intersection of humanity. When we get rid of some of these preconceptions, we're not going to agree on all of this stuff, but we can have some sort of dialogue where we can learn from each other and get better. And I think that's where, for me, that's what religion is for me, is creating communities in places where people feel safe, creating communities where people can feel like what they do has purpose. And that to me is really valuable. And if you experience religion where you don't have purpose and you don't feel like you're safe, I can understand why you would not want to create a space for religion. That's not been my experience, but I respect those who've come to it from a different place. Religion to me is such a wildly interesting social experiment that has provided us with so many different things to consider. It's quite similar to the construct of country music and how it was created to divide people, quite literally. And we can put that book in the show notes too. But like, there's just so much that happens with dividing of people when you could really talk and get to know folks through folk traditions, through food traditions, through religious traditions, through land traditions. There's so much that we can do that makes this easier. We come from different parts of the world, but we're talking about the same goals. Perhaps we can understand how we get there in different ways, and we can respect it a little bit better.
We belong and we feel well before we think and before we form ideologies. Those are the fundamental things. And I think so many people, look, I'm going to blame a lot of this on the conservatives and the libs, but I think a lot of people want to argue over ideas before they get to know their neighbor. And that's something that's only fueled by like the onlineification of politics and like algorithm driven stuff. Most people will probably agree that they want, if you really make them think about it, they'll be like, yeah, I want people to be taken care of. Genuinely. Like, I think most people want that. It's just a matter of if they can trust you with it. Now, there's always some bad actors and some people who are loyalists to all these Confederates, but we've got Nuremberg trials for them. Everybody else, I think we mostly want that stuff. You just got to make people feel it. You got to be trustworthy.
So people have called you their favorite worship leader or something to that effect. Because honestly, when I was listening to some of your stuff, as someone who's spent a lot of time in church, I am a Christian. Like some of the style reminded me of like some of the more like contemporary Christian music. Is that something that you're doing on purpose?
This has been a good interview.
Have you been a worship leader before?
No, it's not at all. I was raised in it, right? Like, so I'm very familiar with it. What I love about country music is I think it's like the most heathen ass music you could make. But no, there's a couple songs on the record that, I hate that I'm being called out on this. I'm getting so squirrely. There's a couple songs on the record I didn't want to cut because I told my producer, this feels like worship music and I don't think we should do it. And my producer was like, this is a banger.
No way.
If you don't cut it, you're messing up. You have to do it. And I was like, cool. And I would walk back like, don't do this production thing. Don't do this production thing. And my producer was like, no, it's not working. And it didn't work. And so we just said full send, like, let's just do like the toms and snare thing, like all that. We committed to it. That's really funny. And the thing about Hillby Hymn is like, to me, that sounds like church in a real way too, because and that was deliberate, but I wanted that to feel like a tape recording of like, if you've ever been to a weird church with like a drop ceiling that's in an abandoned gas station, or like four highways back, like right off the interstate. I want it to feel like that. And that's a very vernacular kind of weird experience. So I was like, I'll be fine recreating that kind of church. But man, I can't believe you're calling me out on it like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. I won't name names, but I'm pretty sure I know which ones Dave's talking about. I like that song. If it's the one I'm thinking about, I like it. I was singing along.
It's a great song. If we're all talking about the same one, it's probably my daughter's favorite song.
You got to accept that light.
At some point, you just know the things that you know. You know.
We're talking about songs on the album. I want to talk about Racecar real quick. I know that the album is coming out on the 29th. We probably are going to drop this right around that time. So it'll work out really nicely as a way to hopefully get you some love. That song is like a history lesson on NASCAR. Those guys were outlaws before outlaws, and it's a cool way to jump into that. I like that song a lot. I hope that it hits the radio. And this is where I'm gonna go on the other direction of what Dave was saying with the worship music. I think your music sounds a lot like contemporary, modern day radio country music in a lot of ways. Some of it does. Other parts are like, kind of on the edge of that. Other parts of it are, a little bit in the worship space. I'm going to give him that. Now that I hear that, I'm going to be like, listen to that song a little differently. But Racecar right there is contemporary country music. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, that's my favorite song on the record because I just love that butthole country rock. I just love, like, the worse it is, give me that slop.
Me too,
It's
man.
so good.
No wonder I like that one so much.
It's funny, I do like y'all, I think people think I'm kidding. I love just country music. And people are like, I've said this to people and they're like, "Oh, you mean alt country?" I'm like, "No, I actually don't care for like alt hockey talk stuff that much. Like if it sounds like it was in a tape machine, I probably won't listen to it." They're like, "Oh, you mean like that old school stuff?" I'm like, I mean, I like Roger Miller, but like not much more. Like I don't want to hear much Buck Owens, I'm not gonna lie. Mostly because there's a lot of resentment in there. I don't know. But like I love like Eric Church, Lainey Wilson, Luke Combs. I will cut on unironically.
You can admit it here. This is a safe place. Who else?
Brothers
do you like?
Osborne, so good. I love all that
sir.
stuff. Like I will unironically cut the radio on and listen to Top 40 Country when I'm on the road. And sure, some of it's bad, but like, let's be real. Like there's bad music in every genre. Why all of a sudden is it Luke Bryan's golf drink song that he put out the other day is what gets to represent all of country music? Also, that man's cashing checks. So like, good for him. If I was making money, I would for sure put out that song. That song is hilarious. But it's funny you bring that up about Racecar because we referenced a Hotline TNT song for Tone, and we referenced Dirt Road Anthem.
Yeah, I'm chilling on a dirt road, laid back swimming like I'm George Jones.
Like I was just like, dude, I think it's this. Like, I think we just need like an indified version of this.
Amazing, man. I listened to that today while I was on a run, and like talk about a song that like makes you want to run through a brick wall. And like I felt it was really hard to get my heart rate down.
Thank you.
After that song came on. It took me the whole run. I never got it down. I had to walk.
Thanks.
So, yeah, it's a banger,
you.
man.
It's a good song.
And no
I mean,
wonder.
I heard it the first time. I was like, damn, this is radio ready. That's what's crazy about it, right? And it gets possibly to our last question here, right? Like you call yourself, you have comrade country, like that. You're not like hiding from the farthest aspects of the political spectrum. And you're making music that is perceived as wildly conservative. And arguably, radio country is pretty conservative. Politically, socially, sort of socially, except for the parts like drinking and doing bad things like that. These are intentionally divisive terms. Do you end up finding like-minded people who are like, yeah, I really like pro-country, but let's nationalize the oil companies? Do you find that, or is it more like people are like, damn, this is good music. These are different ideas than I'm used to. Like, where do you find it?
Tell us what else we think we should nationalize.
I don't think we should nationalize
Oh
anything.
my God.
I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. I just gotta say it. We could talk about it. If I was gonna pick anything, it would be the utilities, but that's a different story for a much longer conversation.
Yeah, look, I don't know if they're out there or not, but I'm just sick of lying. Like it goes back to the hospital chaplain thing. I have seen in very concrete ways, and this is like very dark, but I've seen in very concrete ways the actual like blood that this country runs on, like the death that this country runs on, the death that empire requires, whether it's the life that you give to your work, that you take away from your family and that takes away from your body for years, or it's kids who are shot because of bad gun policy. Like, it doesn't matter. I do not have the patience in me anymore because I've seen so much hardship. I do not have the patience in me anymore to lie or to pretend like I'm okay with saying something that might be coded this way, but might actually accommodate this. Like, I don't have the patience for that. And I also don't have the patience to sit out here and cosplay my culture. Like, country is actually really weird. Like, growing up in the country is a weird thing. Like, it's not cowboy boots and trucks and stuff. It's like Pontiac Sunfires and SoundCloud rap and like Stained. And then it's also Alan Jackson. Like, it's this weird hybrid of things. And so, like, I just don't have time to pretend that what I like isn't what I like and that what I mean isn't what I mean. And so I'm just right at the intersection of all of those experiences.
Beautifully said, man.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we have a recurring segment that we call the Dad Life Sound Check, where we share a song that is speaking to us as dads, or just as fans or people. So it's always a pleasure to have the segment with a guest on the show. So we'll start off with you, Nathan. What song is speaking to you?
Of course it's going to be Roger Miller. To save our sanity in the house, we haven't decided to go with a YouTube brush your teeth video. we play do-wacka-do for our toddler while she brushes her teeth.
I wish I had your happiness. You had to do, I could 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 do.
And then she runs around singing it, and she messes up the lyrics, and she's like, I got girls in the front and money in the sack. And it sounds really hard. Like it sounds like she's really about like some criminal enterprises when she says it. Do-wacka-do it also makes me so happy because it's the kind of like ketamine pilled like country stuff that also like is so appropriate for kids. And so it's like this amazing point of connection with me and the toddler.
I was actually listening to Roger Miller as we were getting ready for this. I have a greatest hits album that I picked up from a discount bin at my local record shop. And I was like, man, this stuff is so weird. It is so strange. I was like, You Can't Roller Skate in a Buffalo Herd was on this album. I was like, this is a weird song, man.
I know. Everybody that wants to like save country music should really just be talking about Roger Miller. They should bring back whatever he's doing. His weirdness, his freedom, his like playfulness. Bring that back. Bring back men who like to play instead of just be resentful in their songs.
I like it. I'm having some fun. Mm-hmm. So, Dave, what have you been listening to, man?
Speaking of having some fun, Americana by Ryan Bingham and the Texas Gentleman keeps on coming across.
Drink some beer, shoot some guns. Ain't nobody gonna ruin our fun. We're cooking hot.
It seems very unlike him because it's just like a party song. He seems like such a serious guy. So I like that it's kind of like a change of his character a little bit. But there's a line about having lots of dogs and having lots of kids. And I have lots of kids, Nathan. I have 4 now. So anytime someone's talking about having lots of kids, it just, my ears perk up a little bit. Like, oh, that's me. But I mean, the song comes on in the car when I have my lots of kids there. And it's not an appropriate song for kids. Also, I just haven't been able to listen to it all the way through for a while because there's drugs and F words in this song that I don't really want to bring up on the way to school with kids.
Get them wired up for the principal's office.
But yeah,
man, we drive in very different cars to school.
We're different dudes, man.
We are very different dudes. The only way we get to school is to listen to NPR, which I would assume you would like, but our favorite show is Marketplace Morning Report. So probably not your favorite one. Oh, anyway. Speaking of like really the oldest thing you could possibly say, my pick right now is Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old. I really, really enjoy the new version by Corb, Lund, and Carll.
And the white line's getting longer, the cider's getting cold. I'm much too young.
I've been playing this new game with my oldest. It's kind of like this hybrid of volleyball, tennis, ground ball drills in our backyard. We have a cement patio in the middle and then 2 patches of what used to be grass and now is weeds. We play on either side of the backyard and have to bounce it across the middle, and you have to make the catch and then throw it back. It's a good, fun way to work on ground balls. But, you play by tennis rules, so, you miss the play, the other person gets the point. I played with him over the weekend, and my 11-year-old kicked my ass, and I was wasted. I played so hard in trying to keep up with him, and I don't think I'm that old. I am sore. I couldn't sleep well. My shoulder still hurts. I got killed, and that song came up, and I was like, man, that's a little too on the nose, guys.
Rubbing it in.
Like, it was rough. It feels good to, get out there and get really sweaty. He beat me playing basketball the other day, like legitimately beat me on like street basketball on an 8-foot net. Like, I should be able to take an 11-year-old still.
Gotta get the elbows
I
up.
did that once, and he's like, hey, you knocked me over. I was like, you got in the way. He's like, okay. And then he went and did 3 head top shots over my head by doing a step back fade. I was like, not okay. Not okay. I'm not ready to be this old. I'm just not. I'm not okay with this. And so I was like, oh man, just to take an ibuprofen and ice my shoulder. I feel bad about it.
Time to hang it up.
Be sure to check out Heirloom coming out on May 29th. Thank you all for listening. The best way to support us is to subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever podcast platform you use. If you want to see new episodes and more content delivered straight to your email inbox, please subscribe to our newsletter, countrymusicdads.substack.com. I think Nathan Evans Fox also has a Substack, if I'm not mistaken. You can find everything we do on our website, countrymusicdads.com, and we'd love to hear what you think. So send us comments, suggestions, friendly banter on Instagram at countrymusicdads or via email, countrymusicdads@gmail.com.
Stay tuned for our next episode, and until next time, whether you're at the dance hall, the playground, or just folding some laundry, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.
She's like, who's that talking? I was like, that's Reggie Miller. And she's like, Akadu? I was like, no, that's Roger Miller. That's not the same.
That's a legitimate confusion.
Reggie and Roger,
those are really close.